You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome to Haunted Histories with your host Penny G. Morgan, right here on Parasearch Radio.
Hello everybody, how are we all? Did you miss me? I'm back, I'm getting there, still a bit croaky at times if I have to keep talking a lot, but last week honestly you wouldn't have been able to hear me, it was just one massive coughing and noises. So I want to say a very, very big thank you. I'm just about to mention your name, Kerry. I want to say a very, very big thank you to my gorgeous boss and fellow presenter, Madame Greenaway, for stepping in at the last minute last week and starting my show off for me. It was much appreciated, and I think she did an absolutely cracking job. Don't you? But hi, Kerry. Hi, Gemma. Thanks for joining us. What am I going to talk about? Well, tonight we're going to be looking at the Ostrich Inn, which is nearest to Heathrow. But before I start playing my interview out that I recorded earlier today, I've got a few things to say. So who listened to the show? Hi, Gary. Madame or my... All right, whatever you say, Kerry. Queen Greenaway. Yes, the Queen. I think Queen Greenaway is... Evil Queen Greenaway is what we're supposed to call you, isn't it? But before I start playing the show out, who listened to the Exorcist show last week? What did you think? What are your thoughts on possession? Do people get possessed, or is it something else? Can they kind of manifest it themselves, like Gina and I were discussing? Yeah, I thought you might like that one, Kerry. Yeah, my queen. Yes. Not that she's got delusions of grandeur at all, but you know, she is the queen of Parasearch. We are just her humble servants. Ah, gosh, I've missed you all. Feels like it's only a week I haven't been doing this, and it feels like my right arm had been cut off. Anyway, so what have I been up to? Well, I popped to my husband's paranormal cherry at the weekend, and I took him to RAF Binbrook, in Lincolnshire. Would you have? The lovely little darling drove all the way there and drove all the way back. I'm making Kerry laugh. I do like it. I do like making Kerry laugh because she can't stop once she gets going. It's quite funny. Anyway, my lovely husband drove us all the way there, all the way back. 6 hours round trip, and he did an investigation. Yeah, it was quite near you, Gem. Yeah, it was a good night. It was an interesting night. He's still not 100% convinced, even though he has seen some stuff, and there was an awful lot of stuff that I was picking up that was then being validated by other bits of equipment that he couldn't actually explain, although I'm still doing the research into some of the evidence that was gathered. But that was with the gorgeous guys from Simply Ghost Nights, who really good group, really well organised, energetic, know their stuff. No, they're one of the ones that most people have heard of. The only thing with Binbrook that really disappointed me... Hi, Mark! The only thing with Binbrook, I can honestly say that really disappointed me, was the fact I couldn't get into any of the old hangars. But you never know, maybe one day. But no, my husband did very well. He wants to do another one. Although he even though I put him on the stage, anyone who's been to Boonbrook knows what I mean, I put him on the stage, he did draw the line when I suggested he went down the back, actually literally backstage where none of us were. He wouldn't do that, the wuss. But maybe next time. Maybe next time I'll just have to think of a suitably scary place to take him. Well, my next investigation is with the guys from The Hauntings. So our friend Ryan Griffiths, who was on the show the other week talking about Jedburgh, Lee Roberts, who you may or may not have heard of, he's been on the show a few times, and Pete Cox, and I'll be doing The Village with them at the beginning of November. Looking forward to that one. If we can be sensible enough to do an investigation. Anyway, who's entered the competition to win that pagan rosary on the Facebook page? If you haven't, you've got until Monday, I believe, to get your name into the hat for a beautiful handmade pagan rosary. Again, it's the Evil Queen made it. The Evil Queen Greenaway made it. So she's rather a talented little sod, that one. Not only can she present, not only can she sort of talk about pretty much anything, she can also make stuff like that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go and check it out, because it's beautiful. Unfortunately, I can't enter. Same problem I had with when those books went up that I wanted. But as Kerry told me, there's a website with them all on if I want to buy one. So, but go and enter that competition if you haven't had a chance to do so yet. Right. I don't think there was anything else. Oh, YouTube. If I haven't mentioned YouTube, I'll keep saying it. As Kerry says, click, like, share and subscribe. Do all of that, and then you'll get to hear all the other Parasearch shows. You've got a few of the presenters in the chat room right now. Miss Gemma, Evil Queen Greenaway's there. I can't see. Is there anyone else there, presenter-wise? No, not at the moment. Not yet. But all of their shows are on there. So you can go and listen to all of them at your leisure. So, before I completely talk my head off, because it feels like I haven't talked to anyone today, shall I play the interview out? Yeah? Okay, and on tonight's Haunted Histories, as you'll have heard, you'll have probably read in the adverts for the show, and if you know me and you've spoken to me, you know I'll have mentioned this place. We're talking to the lovely Lynda of Fright Nights, Berkshire, about probably a little known place until you've been there or you've been told about it, and Lynda and Mark have been telling me about this place since I first met them, I think about nearly 2 years ago now. Something called the Ostrich Inn. Hi Lynda, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Penny. How are you?
I'm alright, thank you. Still a bit croaky, croaky, but you know, fighting the good fight, keeping going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then again, as a mum and everything else, I don't have much choice.
No.
We have to keep going. It's prerequisite. So, you and Mark were the ones who told me about the Ostrich Inn.
Yeah.
It's quite close to you, isn't it?
It is. It's about 5 miles from us, just down the road in Colnbrook. Right,
okay. And we're going to talk about the Ostrich Inn in a minute, but you're one of the Fright Nights crew I haven't had on the show before. Obviously, I've had Kerry and Steve from Fright Nights London. I've had Gemma come on from... Is it classed as Fright Nights Cambridge? Or is she Fright Night?
It is Fright Nights Cambridge. It was Cambridge and East Anglia, but we're actually separating out Norfolk and Suffolk and Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire. So, yeah.
So she's Fright Nights Cambridge. But they're not the only Fright Nights groups around, are they?
No, as I say, we are separating East Anglia into Essex, Norfolk and Suffolk, Hertfordshire and Bedfordshire, Cambridge, which includes Peterborough, then we've got Worcestershire, Warwickshire, South West, we're just starting a South Wales, we've got Surrey, and up in Yorkshire we've got East and South Yorkshire and West Yorkshire. Wow. So it's growing all the time.
And do you all talk to each other, all the different sort of franchise leaders? Do you all talk to each other and discuss places and help each other out?
Yeah, absolutely. We have our own sort of Facebook and chat groups that we all can talk through for the franchisees only, and we can ask advice of each other and help each other. Mm-hmm. So it really is, like a big giant family.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So are there any new locations coming up as Fright Nights as a whole that you guys, as the people running the different areas, are looking at each other thinking, oh, you lucky thing, you're lucky to get that?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got, I think already it's now 6 brand new locations coming in 2019.
Wow.
So it's very exciting at the moment.
Any of them that you can tell us about?
We will be going to the Village Mansfield.
Cool. Lee's place, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to Swindon Health Spa.
Right.
And a very special one that we got hold of last week is actually Craggynos Castle in South Wales, Swindon. Okay. That looks like an amazing event. That includes dinner, bed and breakfast and everything, that one.
Wow. So, and you're constantly looking for new venues, aren't you? You don't just want to do the same ones that everyone else.
No, absolutely. If we can get a nice, unique venue, then all the better.
Mm.
In fact,
I know there's one you and I have been talking about quite a lot, isn't there, that I'm trying to bully you guys to get.
Yeah, we're still pushing on that one.
Anyone who knows me will know it's to do with aviation, and yes, it's to do with World War II. And it's somewhere that, I'm being positive here, when you get it, I am going to be jumping for joy. So, we
do actually have another new location, which is an aircraft museum.
Ah.
In 2019 that you may not know about yet.
No, I don't. Who's that through? Which part of the UK is
that? I think it's the Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire area.
Ah, interesting.
So, yes,
you know me and aeroplanes.
Absolutely.
But this one that I'm bullying you guys to get, you don't mind too much the late night at this one, do you? Because it's literally just over your back garden.
Yes, it's our back garden.
Mm. Yeah, it's not actually your back garden. It's just behind your back garden.
Literally, fit one step and you're there.
Yeah, we're not saying that you actually own an airfield.
No, it would be lovely, but
wouldn't it just
get into venues? Yeah,
but yeah, I know we're being very, very cryptic, but if you want to put the thumb screws on me, anyone listening, I might give you a few more hints as to where this place is, but believe me, you'll know all about it when it gets arranged, because I will be shouting it from the highest rooftops, because it's one that historically it's got a lot of importance. But on to tonight's show, the Ostrich Inn. Now, this is a place that Most Haunted visited very, very early on in the Most Haunted career, shall we say. So it was one of the very, I think it was one of the early series anyway, when it was still actually not too bad. But it's a place that most people had never heard of. In fact, when I was telling my husband, he was like, "What's this week's show on?" And I said, "Oh, it's on a pub that's nearly 1,000 years old." And he was quite incredulous and said, "You can't get a pub that's nearly 1,000 years old." And I said, "You can. It was a coaching inn. It's nearly 1,000 years old." And that's actually true, isn't it? Because the original foundations of the building, which was originally known as the hospice, were laid in 1106.
That's right.
During Henry the First's period on the throne.
Yeah.
And the reason it was so important is it's on the main London to Bath road.
It was on the main road from London right across the UK. So,
and it was also a turn-off point for Windsor.
It was, yes. In fact, the various dignitaries stayed there when the Magna Carta was signed.
They did. They did. You're nabbing my history stuff here. See, I've done my research and everything, and you're just jumping in. Right, good. King John, the very unpopular King John, is meant to have stayed there on his way to sign the Magna Carta at Runnymede, which was near Windsor, in June of 1215.
That's right.
Now, you might look at the building now and think there's no way that building's 1,000 years old. You'd be right. The current building dates back to the 1500s, but the foundations that current building, now known as the Ostrich Inn, is on, dates back to 1106. And what was quite interesting, I did find out that particular route, and I don't know how big Colnbrook is, but that particular route ended up having, at its peak, had 10 coaching inns along it.
Really?
In that small part, yeah.
Yeah, certainly not in Colnbrook, because Colnbrook itself now has been very isolated from the main road that bypasses it. Mm-hmm. So you only go into Colnbrook if you are specifically going to a pub or a venue within Colnbrook itself.
Yeah. But no, I found out, I think it was the 1400s when it was at its peak as a sort of almost like a commuter rat run, I suppose you could call it.
It was.
Yeah, it had 10 coaching inns along its route in that area, which is quite sort of amazing, really, when you think about it. But yeah, so the building itself, its foundations go all the way back to 1106. It is meant to, and I believe there's a decoration there to do with King John and the Magna Carta, because that's something it's quite famous for. And if anyone listening, possibly people who are not from the UK, wonder what the relevance to Windsor is, well, Windsor Castle, which you may or may not have heard of, isn't, although it's not, it is still a royal residence, but it's not the royal residence, but it used to be. That was actually built by William the Conqueror in the 11th century. So obviously it had, in the sort of 1200s, it would have had an awful lot of monarchical importance. Hence having places that people could stop at along the way that were convenient. Now, something else that it's famous for, and I'm going to come on to the, the murders in a second, is Dick Turpin.
Yes.
Now, Dick Turpin, good old Essex boy, he was born in just outside of Saffron Walden in, they reckon, around 1705. Well, that's when he was baptised. He was hung in York in 1739, but between that time, he's meant to have paid a visit to the Ostrich, isn't he?
It is. They have part of their history, the fact that he stayed there and made his escape out of one of the windows.
Yeah,
running
from the
out
Street Runners. Yeah. Do you know if they have any proof that he stayed there? Do they have a guest book or?
There is some evidence there, but it's meant to be in a book that is hidden in the loft area that no one has been able to access.
Right.
So they've got no sort of readily available evidence that they can show you.
Right.
But
do you know why no one's been able to access it, Lynda?
They can't find it.
Ah, right. Okay, I wondered if they couldn't get into the loft.
No, you can get into parts of the loft, although the building itself, as I say, is so bitty, for want of a better word, because obviously it's had little bits added on afterwards and beforehand. And I think with all the building work that's happened, it's just got lost over the years, over the decades, and nobody actually knows where it is. But it's been documented that book is there somewhere.
Wow. Well, you say about bitty, I mean, it just makes me think of one of the investigations I did with you guys for Strangers Hall.
Yes.
I mean, that's one that's had a little bit added on here and a little bit added on here, and they're still finding stuff now when they have to do work.
Definitely.
To the building, so it's probably a very similar situation. That the minute they pull up an old floorboard to do something, they'll find an old newspaper or a hair clip or.
That's right. We're still waiting for what is almost a cupboard to be renovated.
Right.
That in fact was once used as a bedroom, but I'm talking about a single bed and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the moment, the floor is still too dangerous to walk on, so we can't actually use that area. But it'll be great when it's finished to put someone in there for a nice lone vigil.
I volunteer.
You're welcome.
I volunteer for these things. I volunteered to do one at Avenue House for Kerry and Steve. They've got this thing that nobody will go, the tower. I said, I'll go up there, I'll sit in there and read my book for an hour or so. No problem.
take after me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we actually tried to convince Wayne. My husband Wayne, as I mentioned in the introduction, he did his first ever investigation at RAF Binbrook with the Simply Ghost Nights crew this weekend just gone, and we did ask him if he wanted to do a lone vigil in the cellars on his own, and his answer was no, but I'll go down there with Penny. Now, he was absolutely fine. We ended up getting him to go off on his own onto the stage in the bit that's been mocked up as is a theatre, but I did suggest that maybe he went down the back of the stage on his own. He wouldn't have it. So
no,
yeah, he's not up for doing one yet, but yeah, I would.
That's
the
great.
worst that can happen.
Well, at the moment, you'll fall through the floor.
Yeah, that might hurt.
Yeah, definitely. So no, as soon as we do get it renovated, we will be able to use that little area as well.
Cool. Well, I say I volunteer. If nobody else will do it, give us a shout. I'll take one for the team.
Will do.
So, the thing that the Ostrich... I mean, I find the whole sort of the King John side of it, the Dick Turpin side of it, I find those absolutely fascinating for me personally. But I think the thing that attracts most people to it is the fact that it's meant to be the site of over 60 murders. And
that's what the history books say.
That's what the history books say. But being... Now, you know I can be a little bit sort of argumentative, Lynda.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know I like to look at both sides of the story.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to be an investigative journalist in my past life or something. I have actually been doing quite a lot of work looking into the whole Jarman situation, which we'll get onto in a second. But one of the things is the research I've been doing before we started recording, is that there is meant to have been a husband and wife, landlord and landlady team known as the Jarmans. Correct me if any of this is wrong. And they are meant to have constructed a trapdoor in one of the bedrooms, so that if someone particularly rich came to relax and recharge whilst on a business journey or whatever along that route, the trapdoor, once they'd gone to sleep, they'd pull the trapdoor and the body would fall into a burning vat of a vat of boiling water, and they would die and they would steal all their stuff.
That's right.
Now, I have been searching for some kind of proof of this, and I found it happening everything from the 13th century to the 17th century.
Yeah.
So I can't find any definitive explanations on it from the research I was able to do. There might be some actually in Berkshire, in the records office or whatever. But it's a good story. It is a good story. Now, they were supposed to have been caught when they'd killed a very wealthy, I think he was a carpet salesman or something, by the name of Thomas Cole.
That's right.
And his red horse and or donkey, whichever it was, his four-legged friend, was found wandering the streets. And that's how people cottoned on to what the Jarmans...
They cottoned on to the fact that Thomas was missing.
Yeah.
So went looking for him, and that is then when they were found out.
Yeah. Now, it's meant to have... the story of the Jarmans is meant to have been the inspiration for Sweeney Todd. The story of Sweeney Todd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is... It makes sense. Because I believe that... And that does make sense, that it could have been the inspiration for that. But it's also... You can go back slightly further, because there's actually a book called Thomas of Reading. Have you heard this?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
There is actually a book called Thomas of Reading, and in that, the novel describes someone called Thomas Cole staying in a pub known as the Sign with the Crane. Now, this was written in the early 1700s, I believe, from the research I've done. And the landlord in it is the name... Some said Larman, some said Jarman, because it's written in Old English, so they're not quite sure, but it's definitely something Arman.
Yeah.
And it describes 9 murders similar to what the Jarmans are meant to have done.
Right.
So there is a bit of a belief amongst a lot of sort of researchers that these murders never really happened, and what people have done is they've taken this book, Thomas of Reading, and turned it into reality.
Yeah.
It's plausible. It is plausible.
It is plausible.
But there's also, it says in the book that the reason Colnbrook was named Colnbrook is because coal in the brook, because one of the things they were meant to have done to the remnants of these bodies. Pardon?
Yeah, when they went searching for his body when the horse returned, his body was actually found in the nearby brook.
Yeah. So that was one of the things. They said that it was called, the village was called Colnbrook because as to pay homage to Thomas Cole.
That's right.
I can throw that one out the water because it was known as Colebrock, Colebroc, as far back as 1107. So I don't think it's to do with coal in the brook. And Colebrock actually means cool brook or cool stream, which would be... So there's things about the book that makes it sound like this whole belief that these 60 murders took place is just because of a novel that was written in the early 1700s. But then there's also things in the book that seem to be artistic license.
Yes.
So I am wondering, A, if it really did happen. However, one of the other arguments is the writer who wrote this book, he was a traveller. And it could have been he heard the story and decided to make it into a book.
Yeah, and use his own references.
Which writers, I do it a lot of the time. I'll hear a story and then I'll create it into something else with my imagination. So it's an interesting one. However, I know from stuff you've told me, you guys have actually had some quite interesting verification that murders may have happened.
We have had some very, very interesting confirmation that things may have happened.
Do you want to tell me about it?
Okay. Well, we've had quite a few spirits come through in our visits to the Ostrich Inn. We've been there a number of times now, and we do find out a little bit more every time we go. We encounter regularly a gentleman who lived in part of the house on the lower floor, an old gentleman there. He lived there with his wife, and obviously she passed on, but he still tends to come back to visit.
Right.
We've encountered a few women upstairs in the function room that come through quite regularly. But more importantly, we have encountered spirits in what is room 11, or called the Blue Room, which is the room where the trap door was installed. Okay. Now, there is historical fact that trap door was there. So we know that did exist. We have actually made, over our investigations, contact with a gentleman called Thomas Cole.
Right.
Who on one of the more recent investigations, we had a new medium come through, and he said, I've got this gentleman here. And I said, can you ask him his name? And the response he got was, you know who I am, Lynda. Which was quite interesting. And I believe that was Thomas Cole.
Right.
But we've also had some of the staff have come along sort of later on during our events, and we've ended up staying after hours till 3-4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And had some very, very interesting glass divination affirmative sessions with the staff that were there.
Right.
And we believe that we did actually make contact with Jarman.
Right.
The things that he was saying fitted in with the history quite well.
Right.
And it just seemed too coincidental to dismiss it.
Right.
You know, whilst we're always suspicious, you know, the people that were there were not expecting anything to come through.
Yeah.
Because they didn't really believe it to start with, to say this is the staff. But I mean, the one girl that had quite good contact with the spirit was supposed to stay there the night and actually went home to stay at her friends because it scared her so much.
Oh, bless. So what sort of verification was this spirit who was Jarman coming out with?
So it came through the glass divination.
Yeah.
And we had confirmation that there were murders, that he was party to the murders, but in actual fact, he wasn't the one that was pulling the strings. It was actually his wife who was very much in charge. And
Right.
we've had a couple of mediums that have said exactly the same thing. So basically, he was doing his wife's bidding. She was the one that wanted the wealth and the money,
Right.
and he just had to do what she wanted him to do.
Okay.
So, yeah, we believe that something definitely did happen there. Whether it was 60 murders or not, I don't think we're ever going to get names of 60 people that they murdered. But if you spend the night there in room 11, which we do occasionally offer out to guests, or obviously you can rent the rooms yourself at the inn, room 11 is quite active. And we were woken when we stayed there on our first visit. So, yeah, and other people that had stayed there have said, yes, it was very active.
So what woke you up when you were there?
Banging on the walls, and it was the wall between the bottom of the bed and the bathroom. And there was 3 or 4 quite loud knocks. And obviously that woke us up. We just called out to the spirit, was that you? If it was, can you give us some more evidence? And the banging, well, it was like drums being played. It was so loud. And constant. So, yeah, we had that confirmation there. But we've had so many things happen in that room. We've had lights going off on command. We've had K2 meters being thrown across the room. We'll leave one balanced on the headboard when we go out, and when we come back, it's in the middle of the bed. And there's no other reason for it to have been moved. We have had one guest who's seen a shadow in one of the bar areas upstairs that's adjacent to the function room.
Right.
Literally a full figure that walked past the glass window as she was looking at it. Again, as intelligent as these spirits are, they never seem to be able to get captured on video or photos.
That's why they're that intelligent. They don't want to be captured, yeah.
That's right. So, you know, it was her word, but we have had a few others have said, I'm sure I saw something move behind there. And it is just a little bar area with glass partition into the function room, and you do see shadows go past in there. We have had several people with lone vigils in there that, yeah, they felt extremely uncomfortable and didn't like being in there.
So when it was a coaching inn, would the function room area have been bedrooms?
Originally, it probably was all bedrooms up there, because that is the oldest part of the building.
Yeah.
And that's in the same section of building that the room 11 is in.
Right. Right.
They have had major refurbishment done there.
Yeah.
Certainly since Most Haunted was there. So all the bedrooms have been done up. But it's not just room 11. They have activity in several of the other rooms. They've had guests waking up to babies crying.
Right.
When you're in the bar area late at night clearing up, you can hear footsteps walking around upstairs when you know there's no guests up there.
Didn't
and
you have an interesting experience with a novelist when you stayed there?
Oh, I did, yeah. The first we stayed there, we only got about 4 or 5 hours sleep because it was after this extended event. And I just thought, well, while I'm here, I'll put the Ovilus on just to see if anything comes through. And I think we slept for tried to sleep for about 4 hours. Mm-hmm. I ended up turning the volume off on the Ovilus because we had 74 pages of text coming through. And each page has about 50 words on it. Yeah. It was non-stop. And we do find we get REM pods going off. We have the latest craze, the cat balls going off. Yeah. K2 meters. The actual building itself does have quite a high EMF base reading.
That's what I was going to ask next, is have you done base readings to see if it is actually abnormal or if it's normal for the building?
For the building, it has a normal raised EMF frequency. Right. So the only way that the K2s you can be sure are working properly is to put them up high within the rooms. This is what we found, that on the headboard in the room 11, it's absolutely fine up there. But the amount of times, as I say, that now the K2s have been thrown off onto the bed is, it's getting quite compelling.
Okay. So what sort of words were coming through on the Ovilus when you were staying there?
Interesting, murder, death, knife, killing, hanging, dead. A lot of words along those lines.
Right. Well, knowing Mark's love of serial killers, he was in his element, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Oh. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, they probably sensed a kindred spirit or something.
Quite likely.
So you say room 11 isn't the only one, and it's mainly the old part of the coaching inn that seems to have the most activity. Has everything that you've recovered been really related to the Jarman era, or have you recovered things from other eras that you've
that's what I'm saying. The older gentleman downstairs, he's only a few hundred years old. Right. We've even encountered the not previous landlords, but they were related to the landlords. It was a lady that came through. Uh-huh. And it was fascinating because she knew all the history of the village. Right. And that the staff were able to ask her, were you here when so-and-so was here? And it would answer affirmative. And they were able then to pin down some of the years, and I believe it was about the 1960s, 70s.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so a spirit as recent as that will still be in attendance. There is also, we've encountered the spirit of a child, certainly down in room 5. It's believed that there is a child spirit that's there, and in fact she did come down to visit us in the bar area when we went down there later in the evening. Mm-hmm. One of the guests was able to communicate with this child.
Right. So you mentioned that the room 11 is the notorious one, the one that had the trapdoor and everything else. Yeah. What kind of, if they have people coming to visit who don't know about its the place's history, what kind of safeguards do they have in place? Do they only put people who are interested in the paranormal in that room, or is it kind of one that only certain people are allowed into?
No, it's available for anyone to hire. Right. And basically, I think, if people know about the history, they will ask for the most haunted room. Yeah. Which quite a few do. But if they don't know about it and they get put into that room, well, it's really luck of the draw as to if anything will happen to them or not. Right. I think pure skeptics wouldn't accept that anything is happening.
Yeah, yeah. Do you know if they've ever had to move anyone who's in that room?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Right.
I do know in one of the other rooms, I believe it was room 9 or room 10, I think, there was a couple of older ladies that stayed overnight, and they woke in the early hours to find that the bottom of the bed was all dipped down.
Right.
Because someone was sat on it. It was literally as if someone was sat on the bottom of the bed.
Right.
And these old dears just woke up and said, "Oh, for goodness sake, leave us alone." And it went.
Love them.
They were just so down to earth about it. It was brilliant. But they have had others that obviously did not enjoy their stays there.
Yeah, that's what, I was wondering, because I couldn't actually find any of those when I was sort of Googling TripAdvisor and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether it's people would be too embarrassed to say we were too scared of our room. We had to leave or asked to be moved.
Yeah, I think that's probably more the story. But I know that, I mean, as I say, Mark and myself have stayed there a couple of times in the room 11, and we've had experiences. And one night, Kerry and Steve stayed there from Fright Nights London. Mm-hmm. They stayed there, and they had experiences through their event there, through their night. Oh. So, you know, it's not just us that are saying it.
Other people have verified it.
Other people are verifying.
So have you had any good stories about the place from staff who are obviously there when the general public aren't and have to go into cellars and into empty rooms? And
oh yes, some of the staff, we had one of the young girls that worked in the bar area. She said, "Oh no, I don't believe it, nothing's ever happened." And then we went back a month later and she said, "You know, I said to you nothing had happened." She said, "I was in bed just after you'd been before, and my sheet got pulled off my bed."
And this was a bed at the Ostrich?
A bed at the Ostrich. She stays at what I class as the newer part of the hotel, in one of the rooms. And yes, she had the sheets were pulled off her during the night. She found that quite spooky. We have the chef in the kitchen. He is actually quite a sensitive person himself. He doesn't class himself as a medium by any means. Yeah. But he is sensitive to it and very open. And he gets quite a lot of things happening to him and communication from the spirit world. Mm-hmm. They also managed to capture on CCTV, in one of the corners of the kitchen, they had a stack of plates on the shelf. Mm-hmm.
Hello?
You there still?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry, what was that? They had a stack of plates on the shelf?
They had a stack of plates on the shelf, and the CCTV actually captured these plates. There was only 4 of them, but they actually flew off the shelf one at a time, horizontally into the kitchen before falling to the floor and smashing.
Wow. And they've got this photographic evidence of this happening?
They have got that photographic evidence, yes. And we've seen it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so it was captured on CCTV. There was nobody there. It was in the dead of the night. They came in the next morning to find plates on the floor. What on earth's happened here? And, it was captured on the CCTV.
And so is the kitchens in the old part of the pub or the newer part?
The kitchens, they've been moved around a bit, obviously, over the years, and they're now, all the new health and safety rules and everything, they're all high-tech. But it's part of it is in the older part of the building, and some of it is in the slightly newer part of the building. But the whole area, to be honest, has got a long history.
I mean, we're saying newer part of the building. We're still looking at a couple of 100 years old, aren't we?
At least, this is it. Still looking at 300 to 500 years for the new parts of the building. So, it is. The floors are very uneven. We do ask guests to be careful when they walk around. The stairs are very uneven. They're not all the same height. Mm-hmm. So you go up a few stairs and then you have to take a bigger step to get up the next one. Mm-hmm. So obviously on health and safety, those are things we have to point out. but yeah, no, the floors are a little bit uneven.
So does the building, is it intimidating? Does it have that kind of feel inside it?
I just think it's wonderful, personally. I walk in and I think, oh, wow. You know, it really is old world, antiquated. It's still got lots of little nooks and crannies. It's got original fireplaces in it. A lot of original timbers are still in existence there. Mm-hmm. Ceilings are very low, obviously, because back in the day they were all a lot smaller.
I like those buildings though, because they make me feel tall.
And it is very dark wood. You know, it is dark wood. So yes, I suppose you could say, if you were that way inclined, that it does feel a little bit oppressive, but it's amazing.
Yeah, I'd be with you on the amazing side. I love. Well, I'm a historian. I love stuff like that.
That's right.
How into the paranormal investigations are the owners of the building?
The building itself now is owned by Shepherd Neame.
Right.
Who obviously have got a chain of pubs and hotels and inns and things. And they're not, from what I gather, overly into the paranormal. Okay. But the manageress and her co-workers that are there believe very much in the paranormal activity because they've experienced and witnessed it so many times over the years. And they decided that, you know, this is one thing that they wanted to do. And we're very lucky in that as events organisers, we're able to organise quite a special evening for guests where they have dinner first up in the function room. And then we do the ghost hunts afterwards. And it's arranged so that we do investigating upstairs. Then as soon as the bar is empty, they come up and say, right, downstairs is free. And we go downstairs and do all the downstairs investigating.
Brilliant.
But the manageress, Sarah, who actually is our main contact, she was there back in the day when it was visited by Most Haunted.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, she fully believes in it all.
Yeah. The reason I ask is some sort of official bodies some of them are saying, no, we don't want these kind of investigations in our premises. We don't want anything to do with it. Whereas others are saying, well, actually, you know, looking at it from a commercial perspective, it's a good way to make some extra money and make use of the property sort of thing. So I just wondered if it was one of those places that whoever owned it was likely to say, no, we don't see this as a money-making. Because at the end of the day, a lot of these big sort of conglomerate type owners, they don't really care whether their place is haunted or not. That's down to the individual, like you say, the manager.
That's right.
Who lives there. All they see are the books. At the end of that's all they care about. So that was kind of my question.
Yeah, as I say, you know, we're fortunate in that we built up this relationship with them. We always have a meal with the event. So we're bringing in income for the building. It's definitely attracting attention for them. And we hope that, you know, long may it continue. I think we've still got 2 events there this year, and then we have 5 events there next year.
So when are your events there for the rest of this year?
We're there on I believe it's 26th of October. But that is a sellout, I'm afraid. No tickets left on that one. But we go there as a sort of a Christmas New Year function on the 29th of December.
Right.
And then, as I say, 5 times throughout next year, sort of every 2-3 months we go there.
Right. And I presume people can go on the Fright Nights Berkshire page to find this, to book it?
Either Fright Nights Berkshire, they're not, next year's dates aren't on the Berkshire page yet. I'm in the throes of doing that. but as I say, my computer crashed last night, which did not help me in the slightest. But they will be on the main Fright Nights webpage, which is www.frightnights.co.uk. And you can just search for Ostrich Inn and it will all come up.
So if anyone was going to go to the Ostrich Inn, what advice would you give them? As you know the place and you know a lot of the spirits who tend to like to make themselves known. Yeah,
what advice? If they could rent a room, if they could afford a room, you phone the Ostrich direct and book the room with Sarah. She'll give you a special rate, which is fantastic. Because we have had that where several guests have actually booked rooms and we ask them very politely if we may actually go into their room when we do the history tour, just to see what the room atmosphere feels like. I think we've been in most of the rooms now, but so, we're polite with the guests and ask if they would mind that, and that works very well. So, no, it's just you go with an open mind. It's done in 2 sessions rather than just one full ghost hunt, as I say, because we have to do upstairs and then downstairs when the bar is empty. We don't get any cross-contamination of noise from the bar, which is surprising. Yeah.
It's unusual, yeah.
It's unusual. But no, we don't seem to get any cross-contamination at all once we're in the function room. It's very quiet. So, just come along and have a great time.
Sounds it. Well, changing the subject slightly, Lynda.
Go on then.
I've known you for a couple of years now, and I have never asked you this question.
Go on.
If you could investigate 3 places anywhere in the whole world, what would they be?
Anywhere in the whole world?
Yeah. Travel is no problem. Cost is no problem.
Well, funnily enough, I did talk about going over to Auschwitz.
Oh.
Which is very dark, but I'm very, very compassionate for the spirits.
Yeah.
And I just like to be able to get some information and offer them my sympathy and understanding.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be what we would call like a commercial investigation. It would be more of a subtle sort of
no,
subtle conversation, if you like. Yeah,
that would be me personally. I mean, I did actually have an experience on Saturday night. We were at Anison Funeral Parlour,
right,
and we managed to make contact with a spirit through our medium. And we were using the K2 meters, and he said to our medium, how do I say what I want through the lights? How do I communicate? And our medium on the time, Angela Mitchell, turned around and said, well, try using the device Lynda's holding, which was an ovulus. And the words came up so lonely.
Oh, crumbs.
And it's things like that. I mean, I was brought nearly to tears, really to bring up a lump in my throat.
Yeah.
And it's things like that that really fascinate me about investigating the paranormal.
Yeah.
So, as I say, I had talked about Auschwitz.
So Auschwitz, anywhere else?
I'm trying to think. I'd love to get into Windsor Castle, seeing as we live in Windsor. Near Windsor, that would be ideal.
Have a chat with Victoria.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not overly fussed about a venue. It's just, as you say, if it's got a history, if it's old enough, and it looks the part, then I'd love to do it. But equally, it doesn't even have to look the part, because the other main venue that Berkshire has is just a village hall, but so haunted. And we have had activity every single time we visit the building.
What's the name of that village hall again?
That's the old social hall.
That's it. Is that Engel?
Englefield Green.
That's it. I knew it was Engle something.
Englefield Green, which is between sort of Egham, Staines, Windsor, Old Windsor. It's that area. But it is purely just a village hall used by the Montessori school, dance classes, the chiropodists there. They have pantomimes, plays. But both Mark and I knew the building from our younger days when we were doing amateur dramatics.
Right.
And we had experiences there, so we thought, well, let's give it a go.
Yeah. Well, you and I know, you and I both know somewhere like Kelvedon and Hatch Nuclear Bunker. That's only, 1952 that was built.
That's right, but it doesn't mean it's not haunted.
No, it doesn't mean something's not there. I have got to go back and see how my little friend Matthew is. See if he's still around.
Yeah.
My little 22-year-old soldier.
Well, we'll try and find him on Friday for you.
Tell him I am trying to get back there, but it's just not happened yet.
We're Friday, so.
Ah. Well, it's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences of the Ostrich Inn. It definitely... Maybe if you see that I've put on my Facebook, I'm going to the Ostrich Inn for the weekend, don't tell Wayne why we're going. Because... I want to see. He said to me after the investigation we did on Saturday at Binbrook, even though there's things he can't explain, even though there were sounds of doors opening and shutting when there was no one around to open and shut said doors, he still turned around and he said, "I'm not a complete skeptic, but nothing's happened yet to make me decide it's real." And I was like, "Hang on, mate. We've sat in a cottage before and seen a bag fly off a table." We've heard footsteps. You've heard doors open and shut. You've seen a glass literally moving on its own, and you still don't think there's something there. So, yeah.
Unless it comes up and hits them on the face, there are some people that just will not accept it.
No, I think he does. I think he's just trying to be hard. He's trying to pretend it doesn't really exist because if it did, it would scare him.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm a big believer that those that really do makes noises about it not existing do so because they know it does, but they're scared.
Yeah, no, he knows it does. He's experienced enough, and in fact, it was freaking him out. Some of the stuff I was picking up that was then being validated by other people on the spirit board and things, and he was like, "How did you know that?" Well, I don't know. I just did. So that kind of. But so if you see that I've put on, I'm going to the Ostrich Inn for the weekend with Wayne. Don't tell him why we're going.
No, we won't. We'll meet you there for a meal.
You're on. Okay. But anyway, it's been absolutely lovely talking to you, Lynda. Thank you so much for your time today. If anyone wants to get in touch with Fright Nights, you can do, obviously, through their main Facebook page, through the individual Facebook pages. If you go on, I think it's the main one that does tend to show all the events around
it
the country,
does,
doesn't it? So
everything on it.
So then you can sort of see which venue is closest to you, because even though they're individual franchises, they're all friends. They all talk to each other. And drop them a line if you're interested in any of them. On that note, Lynda, I'll let you go. Thank you again for your time today talking about the Ostrich Inn. See, I wasn't too argumentative about the history side.
No, you weren't, not at all.
I know, I'm getting good. Thank you
very much, Penny. It's a pleasure talking to you.
And
hope the listeners enjoy.
I hope so too. So, on that note, thank you ever so much for listening. Don't forget that Parasearch Radio has shows on 5 nights of the week. Tomorrow night's show is with our lovely Kaz Rooney on the Spectral Zone, and she's going to be joined by the guys doing the Paranormal Charity Warriors event in a few weeks, so that should be good. But until next week, my friends, have a good evening, sleep tight, and don't worry too much about things that go bump in the night.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.